So it's about 2:30 in the morning right now. Just about an hour ago, I checked the weather update, and a tropical disturbance that we saw a couple days ago is now about 36 hours away, and there's a 50% chance that it will become a tropical cyclone. 7:45. With the weather getting colder and the overlap of the end of the hurricane season in the Caribbean and fall storm season on the East Coast, we had to time our departure perfectly. We've heard other circumnavigators say that the East Coast to the Caribbean passage was their worst, and with storm fronts coming every few days and the forecast changing every 12 hours, we had to be ready to leave at a moment's notice.
Look! Right for it!
We've heard other circumnavigators say that the East Coast to Caribbean passage was their worst, and shortly after leaving, we found out that they weren't joking. On like 38, 40 right now. It's 42. We've had friends and family join for most of our earlier passages, but we were determined to do this one double-handed. This sail would be a lot of firsts for us. Our first 1,000+ mile double-handed passage, first time sailing in such cold weather, and first time sailing into 50-knot forecasted winds. This time of year, the weather fronts come through every few days. You try to sneak through the Gulf Stream when the weather is calm. But that's not as easy as it sounds, because it's around 24 to 36 hours from the moment you leave Virginia till you get to the Gulf Stream, but the forecasts during this time of year are unreliable more than 12 hours out. The forecast was for calm weather when we reached the Gulf Stream, and then a few fronts as we headed southeast away from the East Coast. So we're about 36 hours into our sail from Chesapeake down to St. Martin, and some people get seasick the first day, some people get seasick the second day.
I've been sick for 24 hours. I still did my watch.
She did her watch, and she also painted the side decks with last night's dinner.
Lunch. I never had dinner.
Oh, lunch. We're crossing the Gulf Stream right now. It should take us about 8 hours or so. Now the wind's filled in. We're doing anywhere from 8.5 to 9.5 knots. The wind's blowing with the Gulf Stream, so no crazy swell. All is good. Day 3. Mia has set a record for being sick for over 48 hours now. But it's understandable. We're working hard. Or Tanga's working hard. We're heading upwind. Slamming all night. Took most of the sails in because we're about to get hit by this front. The front came through, the wind picked up, and we decided to bear off to a close reach. At the peak, we saw gusts over 60 knots, and while we had to scramble to reef and point downwind, Tanga held up just fine. Ideally, we get south of Bermuda pretty soon here, but wind's supposed to shift, so we'll hold this angle for a while and hopefully not slingshot to the south of Bermuda. It's 7:45. It's blowing about 25 to 26 current. Cruise along 8 knots. So not the most comfortable, but you know, sometimes you gotta beat the weather. We continued to sail close-hauled, and sleeping for the off-watch person was near impossible. The accumulated sleep deficit started to get to us. The next morning, the wind shifted a bit, and while we were still slamming upwind, at least we are now pointing south of Bermuda. So any of you who have been out in the Atlantic have no doubt seen these guys.
He's big.
Freaking pirate tried to get in. This is what we do with pirates.
Does it smell good?
That night, the next front hit us with a bit of a surprise. For the past 6 hours, there had been no wind, and somehow there was none of the typical North Atlantic fall swell, resulting in a nearly flat sea state. So when the winds first came, we were running downwind at 8 to 9 knots, and it felt like we were at anchor. Mia didn't even wake up. Unfortunately, the first fish was a barracuda and had to be thrown back.
So, just put a new lure out in a couple minutes. Caught this guy. He actually didn't even make it back to the cockpit. I guess mahi is what's for dinner.
The next day, the wind shifted and we were heading upwind again. But we had a large, long period swell coming from behind us. The combination meant that we were both pointing upwind and surfing down waves, something that's pretty uncommon. But the conditions were definitely getting better, and our appetite came roaring back. So we definitely don't eat poorly on Tenga. We got, I think they're quesadillas, but Danish quesadillas.
Who knows?
We got some pork in there. Plastic side. We're cruising along at 8 something. It's only 15 knots of wind though. We're about a day and a half out. Things are getting warm. Caribbean, here we come. So it's about 2:30 in the morning right now, and we just put up the code 0, which is something we typically don't like to do at night. Just about an hour ago, I checked the weather update, and a tropical disturbance that we saw a couple days ago that had 20% chance of forming into a tropical cyclone is now about 36 hours away, and there's a 50% chance that it will become a tropical cyclone. So we think it's going to pass north of us. The forecasters think it's going to pass north of us, but we're not taking any chances. So we put up the code 0 and we're going quite a bit faster. We just have to keep an eye on it because you can't throw that thing in very easily. You got to go up to the bow and manually furl it. So we'll keep an eye on the radar and hopefully be able to see any squalls before they head our way. So we're pointing pretty high, probably higher than what the code 0 is intended to do. So you see it luffing a little bit, but this is what we got to do to get to St. Martin. That sounds like money ripping. We had a few squalls overnight, and one had gusts at 30 knots. I was sure we'd rip the code 0, but it lasted through it all and continued to propel us away from the developing storm. Are they Danish egg rolls?
Nope. They are Tenga egg rolls. We have no more vegetables on this boat. It's Vietnamese. They even smell like spring rolls.
Oh. Grooming on the sea. Getting ready to face civilization again.
Yes.
We made it to Marigot Bay, St. Martin just before sunset, just in time to celebrate with my nephew Brandon and Mia's childhood friend Felix, who had just flown in.
Where are we going, Scott?
Happy hour. We're gonna party like it's your birthday.
We definitely took advantage of happy hour.
What is happening?
What happened?
It was a premonition about my year. He hit the sparkler. It went for about 3 or 4 seconds and then boom, just died. So there he goes. There you go. We try again.
Like fixing the boat.
That's right.
There we go.
It works the first time for a second and then yeah. Oh, this one's working a lot better.
Make a wish. This is really quick.
Engine, please keep working.
But you're not supposed to tell.
Oh, now I'm screwing up.
Oh my god, let's get some spare parts.
Yeah, I know.
St. Martin was devastated just a few years earlier by Irma, a Category 5 hurricane that blasted the island with 160-knot winds for over 8 hours. Over 90% of the buildings on the island were destroyed, and they suffered $7 billion in damage. Even inside protected Simpson Bay Lagoon, boats ripped from their moorings, anchors dragged, catamarans were flipped like toys, and dozens of boats sank. On land, damaged buildings were slowly being rebuilt amidst the rubble.
He's running after you like a dog.
Good morning.
Hi. Can I say hi?
Good morning.
Hi.
Morning. There's the car coming. That's so cute.
Built in 1978 by a Dutchman who fell in love with the beauty of the site, the Club Orient nudist resort was ravaged by Hurricane Irma, and rebuilding is not
Alright, start easing.
Soon we were off, heading to the nearby posh island of St. Barths.
We're heading upwind. It's the first sail. Mia has assumed the sailing position. Felix has assumed the sailing position.
After more upwind sailing, we got to St. Barths just in time for sundowners with Andrew, who had crossed the Atlantic with us the year before. We've had people from many nationalities join us, so one of our favorite things to do is raise the crew flags.
Crew members on board.
On this leg, Denmark, Norway, Germany, and of course, California were represented. The next morning, we got to see how pretty our anchorage really was, and decided to head off to the nature preserve and see what was below. From the beginning, we dove into the deep end. Mia and I met at a party, and on our first date talked about sailing around the world. We hired a famous blue water sailor who had sailed nearly 500,000 nautical miles to advise us on buying an ocean crossing boat, and he suggested that the ML-54 was too big and too complicated for our first boat. We took that as a challenge, and 5 months after our first date, bought Tenga, spent less than 2 months preparing her, and in leaving the marina for the first time, did a 1,400 nautical mile maiden voyage. Then, 6 months later, we crossed the Atlantic Ocean. The learning curve has been very steep and at times quite painful, but we've never been people who like to take things slow. Life is too short to fear the discomfort that stands in the way of rapid progress. Passing this final test of doing a 1,000+ nautical mile passage in tough conditions, double-handed, gave us the confidence to face whatever may come our way in the remote areas on the other side of the world that we plan to visit on our circumnavigation.